My name's Roland McDevitt. If anybody doesn't know me, I'm the division chief for Paddlecraft Safety. And tonight we're going to be having Robin Pope describe for us the new AUXPAD Handbook, which is, I think, a great improvement over the previous guidance that we had. Robin is the deputy director for the B Directorate, which is Recreational Boating Safety Outreach. And it's great to have a paddlecraft guy over the paddlecraft division, and he was previously in my position. Robin has been past president of the ACA's board of directors, 30 years of involvement with the ACA. He's a paddle sports specialist with the Boy Scouts of America's Sea Scout program. He's a level 5 instructor, trainer, educator in river kayaking and swift water with the ACA. And I'm not sure how many years, Robin, you've been working on getting this handbook through the process, but it's been at least 3, maybe 4. I'm not sure.
It seems like there were dinosaurs running around when we started, but yeah, it was about 3.5 years.
Yeah. So basically, that's who Robin is, and that's what the handbook's about. And I'm going to turn it over to Robin. And thank you, Robin.
Great. Roland, thank you for the introduction, and thanks to everybody for being here. Tonight, what we're going to do is go through a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to give some background information about paddling and boating safety, and then we'll move into changes with the AUXPAD Handbook. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And everybody should be able to see that.
Yep.
So again, we're going to do some background information, talk about the AUXPAD overview, and discuss some of the major changes. And my background is in medicine, and I think about this from a public health perspective. Before becoming a physician assistant, I also was an oceanographer and did a bunch of data analysis. So I like playing with numbers, and I think starting out with the numbers is important to set the stage for why AUXPAD is important. So first, if we look at kayaking participation over the last decade, on my left-hand screen, it shows the estimated number of kayak paddlers in the U.S. And you can see that it's nearly doubled, or more than doubled, since 2007 to the present. And then if we break that down by types of boating that are going on, blue are recreational kayaks, which outweigh everything else. The bottom yellow line are kayak fishing, which is increasing significantly. The orange line, yellow is kayak fishing, orange is sea kayaking, which peaked at about 3 million participants a year and has dropped just a little bit. And then whitewater kayaking in gray has been steadily increasing. If we look at canoeing participation over that same time frame, we see that it's dropped just a little bit, but it's hovering at about 10 million participants. And stand-up paddleboard participation has almost tripled since 2010 when we started collecting data, going from just over 1.1 million to just over 3.7 million. If we compare that to motorized boating, the left-hand screen shows the number of registered motorized vessels in the U.S. We don't have great information on how many motorized boaters there are, but because it's tax information, we have great data on the number of registered vessels. And if we look at data from the National Recreational Boating Safety Survey that was done in 2018, we get an estimate of about 4 people per motorized vessel. And that ranges from 1 person per personal watercraft up to 10 or more on a large cabin motorboat. But we see that it's been about 11 million registered vessels per year, with a slight decrease since 2010 to present. Paddling participation, on the other hand, has steadily grown. And we can look at data from 2 sources, the National Recreational Boating Safety Survey, and then the Outdoor Foundation has compiled annual data, and they both show that we're looking at a steady increase in paddling participation. Unfortunately, there's a very strong relationship between paddling deaths and paddling participation. And this slide shows the relationship between kayaking deaths and kayaking participation. And it's clearly there's a very strong linear relationship. Even though there's a little bit of variation year to year, we can predict that by increasing participation, we would see an increase in fatalities. No surprise that paddling deaths are most commonly associated with drowning. And I think probably, again, no surprise, most paddling deaths are associated with exposure to hazardous waters and inexperience. And essentially what happens is inexperienced boaters get into hazardous conditions. I mean, that doesn't mean a storm warning. That means just rough enough to make them capsize or fall overboard. They're not wearing a life jacket. They don't know how to get back in their boat. And then you have a tragedy. We do see, we see fatalities in small craft advisories and on Class 5 whitewater, but when you look at the data, most of the fatalities are in what I think everybody on this presentation would consider easy water, and it just takes a small mistake, not wearing a life jacket, and there's a tragedy that ensues. So again, looking at the kind of summarize things here, there were about 33 million paddlers, according to the Coast Guard, in 2018, which makes up about 39% of the boating population, although in 2018, that only made up 21% of the boating fatalities. Paddling participation is growing by at least 500,000 boaters a year and probably by 1 million or more. And there's a strong relationship between fatalities and participation in paddling. And we're supposed to deal with that. Currently, the AUXPAD program has 48 operators and 17 qualifiers to deal with 39% of the boating population. And that's just going to keep growing. Motorized vessel registrations are decreasing slightly. Human propelled participation is growing dramatically. And most of that growth is in recreational kayaks. My wife and I did take a walk around a lake yesterday, and the kayaks that I saw on there, the only person that was wearing a life jacket was somebody who was probably 3 years old. Nobody else had a life jacket on. Most of the vessels were, in fact, all the vessels were recreational boats with no flotation, and the water was probably 60 degrees. Somebody was swimming in a triathlon, but they were wearing a wetsuit. If somebody had capsized there, it would have been a tragedy, and it would have happened because they just weren't prepared. They didn't know. So kind of moving forward, the data collected by the Coast Guard does show that for all types of vessels, falling overboard and capsizing are the most common type of fatal boating accident. And the contributing factors are hazardous waters, inexperience, and alcohol consumption. These are all human factors. These are things that can be prevented with education and mentorship, and that's where we come in. As you all know, AUXPAD program has an ashore component and an afloat component. Providing that formal and informal coaching, providing the formal instruction saves lives. Just getting somebody to know that they need to dress for the water temperature, just getting them to know they need to wear a life jacket is going to save lives. And then the afloat program provides examples of safe paddling. We're available for rescues, and we're, as you all know, we're ideal for some operations: shallow water search and rescue, providing safety for open water swims, some ATON confirmation. They're things that you can do in a kayak that you just can't do in any other type of craft. So the AUXPAD program started about 10 years ago, and there hasn't been much change in the manual until this year. A group of us started working on it about 3 or 4 years ago, and it has seemed like a long slog, but I think that the end product is really worth it. There's some things that have not changed. The first are the venue restrictions. The venue that you were allowed to operate on before is still the venue you can operate on. We are still in RBS outreach. We're not an operational program. The uniform that we were supposed to wear remains unchanged. And in fact, most of the program remains unchanged. But we did did change things to expand access to the program, to respond to common problems, and changed it from a commandant's instruction to a handbook, which allows easier editorial changes in the future. When we started this process, there were apparently 10 or 12 things in front of us for a change to a commandant's instruction. I was told to switch this to a handbook. At the same time, I was told there were now 30 things in front of us to change. Apparently, changing the commandant's instruction is very difficult. Changing a handbook is very easy. or relatively easy. So what are some of the changes? First, we updated the grammar, updated some of the information, and reflected some of the information that I've shared with you today, just to bring things up to date from 10 years ago to the present. We changed the qualification timeline. Last year, you had to requalify every year. There's now a 3-year qualification timeline, which matches other programs. And we changed it so that you do have to take the NAVREL exam every 3 years, which again makes it more consistent with other programs. As someone who is primarily a river kayaker, I was very happy we were able to get in river kayak assessments and instructor certification in order to participate in the program. It's no longer just limited to coastal kayak. If you look at ACA's curriculum, the coastal kayak and river kayak curriculum at level 2 are almost identical. So really, we were just recognizing that there's another set of people that have a strong skill set and can participate. We did develop a formal personal qualification standard and put that into the handbook, and then gave multiple options for skills demonstration. So earning ACA instructor certification, earning an assessment, demonstrating skills to a qualifier or to an instructor trainer or to a coxswain can all help with this. But we also said that there are times where you actually have to demonstrate rescue skills and make sure that everybody is on the same page. At the request of a number of operators, we expanded to allow tandem vessels so long as both people in the vessel are AUXPAD operators. We updated some of the facility requirements so that at the request of the Coast Guard, we added signal mirrors and emergency cutting tools. And then I think everybody that's been on the water and needed to repair their boat agrees that you need to have a repair kit. And that might be a roll of duct tape and a drain plug. It's whatever is appropriate for your venue. We added buoyancy requirements, and there was some discussion about this, but the fact is, as paddlers, we're all going to capsize at some point. And if we don't have some type of flotation that's going to help us get the boat emptied again, we're not going to be able to participate in a rescue. So we specified that bulkheads or float bags were required. We also added some communication options, and particularly added the ability to use a text-capable personal locator beacon. For some people operating in areas where communications are challenging, having that as an additional option allows us to go on missions that we might not otherwise be able to maintain contact. We expanded significantly the personal protective equipment for cold weather gear to better match paddler usage, and specified that instead of having to wear things, it would be okay to carry them with you. There are a couple of people in the middle of the country that noted that their water is quite cold, even in the middle of the summer, and the idea of wearing a dry suit when it's 100 degrees out just is not feasible. But bringing things that you might need if you were going to conduct an extended rescue makes sense. You can don them if necessary. There's also a lot of discussion about inflatable PFDs, and those were explicitly disallowed for a number of reasons. Mainly, if we have to go in the water to do a rescue, if they're damaged, they are no longer able to function as a PFD. And after discussion with the Coast Guard's leadership, the decision was made to remove those as an option. Some other things that were added that are not in the handbook, but everybody should be aware of. We do have some additional resources for shore-based instruction at the link that's shown here, and we're in the process of updating a paddler's guide to safety. The most recent updates were finished up yesterday morning. The education directorate put them into the curriculum about 2 hours ago, and I'll be taking a look at them, and hopefully we'll be all set. We thought things were okay, and then some of the national leadership had questions, and it's interesting to talk to people when you think everything is all set and you realize there were some holes that were just there because of your personal biases. So I'm glad that we got that input, and all the questions that they had were easy to address, and hopefully we'll be having that out for the AUXPAD community to use. I said at the beginning of this that our uniforms have not changed. but we do have some that are available for purchase. So the uniforming is an orange or a red short or long sleeve wicking shirt, but it'd be nice to have something that actually says Coast Guard Auxiliary on it. And Rollin really spearheaded the development of these. They're now available through Sign Explosion, which is the same company that manufactures the alternative work uniform shirt. And the link to them is here. And there was just an updated flyer for those that was produced today that makes it look really, that is really nicely done and professionally done. I do want to thank Anthony King, the division chief for the communications division in RBS, for the work that his team did there. Final big thing is personal protective equipment and personal locator beacons. It says that we're supposed to have that. It also says that the auxiliary might or might not pay for it. We're aggressively working to get the auxiliary to provide appropriate PPE, including paddling specific life jackets, paddling specific dry suits or paddling jackets, and making sure that we all have personal locator beacons when we go on the water. A few other things that are coming up. Right now, as y'all know, there's no such thing as a DSO for paddling. We use an AUXPAD coordinator, and there's really no way to put an AUXPAD coordinator into AUXData 2. We just don't have the national structure that helps us coordinate a national program. So there's been a proposal to have DSOs, and that's currently working its way through the chain of leadership. We also would like to have an AUXPAD badge. The paddling program is intense. We put a lot of work into it, and I believe, as I suspect all of you do, that we should have some type of badge to signify the effort that we've made to get here. That badge has been approved by the A Directorate, who had the first call. We've then learned that it has to go through the chain of leadership again and has to go up to the active duty uniform board. I think at the end of this, we're going to end up writing how to do that, because the last time it was done was for personal watercraft, and this is a lot of reinventing the wheel. But we will get the wheel reinvented, and we'll get the badges out to everybody eventually. And then the final thing is making sure that we're capturing what we do in AUXData 2. So Roland has taken the lead on developing paddling specific mission codes so that we can say, yes, we are doing on-water paddling missions, and there's already a code for that, but we also need a code to make sure that we are capturing when people do on-land public affairs and program visitor events, to make sure that we get the credit for the work that's being done. So some take-home messages for you. Paddle sports participation is growing. The Tractor Supply store down the road from where I live has got kayaks out in front of it right now. The Walmart near where I live has had kayaks out in front all winter. No life jackets, but they've had kayaks. We know that participation is strongly and linearly related to fatalities. The more people that get on the water, particularly the more people that get on without training, the more fatalities we're going to have. And those fatalities are almost always preventable. So we want to try to avoid those tragedies by making sure that we get out and train the public. There are lots of US paddlers, and there aren't many of us. And I say us as AUXPAD personnel, but I can expand that out to the entire instructional program for the American Canoe Association and for scouting. And there still aren't a lot of us. 3,500 or so ACA instructors for 30 million paddlers. We need to expand so that we can reach the public and provide them the information to keep them on the water safely and help them have fun on the water. So the changes that we made this year in the AUXPAD program are going to strengthen the overall program. They build additional flexibility. They more closely parallel other programs. And I believe they really do provide us some opportunities for growth and expansion. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have anything in the chat box here.
Okay.
And it looks like Anthony's joined us.
Anthony, hey.
So this is Mark Bildercoop. I've been talking to Joey back about a month ago up in Richmond about trying to get something going here in Smithfield.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in our area, we don't have anybody that's qualified to do any of this AUXPAD training.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to bring it up at the next division meeting. I can bring it up to the last one, but they cancel it, unfortunately. So I have to wait until the next meeting. But I've been doing the past 2 years a little thing at a park called Windsor Castle Park in Smithville, where we have like a river there.
Mhm.
And I've been setting up a table, putting all kinds of paddlecraft safety information there, trying to get people information about paddlecraft safety, give them the whistles, give them the reflective stickers that go on the paddles, get them the ID stickers that go on the paddlecraft, all that. And they're really thankful for that.
Yeah.
The guy I'm doing it, but I know what we need is something to get people familiar with the water, because some people have asked me, is there any program or anything out there for people who are new to paddle crafting?
Right.
That I know of. And I said, I didn't, at least not per se for the Coast Guard auxiliary in this area. So that's something that I'm kind of looking at, trying to get started. But because my flotilla is so small, and I've talked to Joey about this, he was willing to, him and Mr. Ivy were willing to come down here and help me get something started.
Mhm.
So that's something I'm looking at. And I've talked to people from the town who operate the park facility there, where we have a kayak ramp and a place where they rent kayaks. So we have the perfect venue for it. It's just a matter of getting something together,
right,
so that we can address that. And so, because they're big on getting people into the town and doing different activities and all, that'd be a perfect thing for us to try to do. But because our flotilla is so small, I don't have the support to pursue this. So
Right.
that's why I've got to get the division involved in it and have like a working relationship with some of the other
Right.
flotillas.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we are such a small group. There are 20 or 25 of us on the screen right now.
Right.
That's nearly half of the entire AUXPAD cadre. So one of the things we can do to help with that outreach is look at other organizations, and particularly looking at local paddling clubs and trying to sponsor some joint programs. You can go on the American Canoe Association's website and look for a list of instructors under their education website, under the ACA's education page. You can find a list of instructors. You can also look for local clubs. And in the Richmond area, the first club that comes to mind is the Coastal Cruisers, which is a huge paddling club.
And Robin, I would also say, what Andrea White's done in Tennessee, and we're copying here in North Carolina with her help. Basically, we've got 12 state parks that are partnering with our state ACA director and the auxiliary and a variety of private sponsors to provide Paddlecraft 101 training for 15 kayakers in each of those 12 sites. That's going to be on May 20th this year. And I think, we've actually got a number of our AUXPAD people who are state directors around the country. And I think it's a great model where what I'm seeing here in North Carolina, we've only got 3 AUXPAD people in North Carolina who are instructors, but there's lots of other instructors when the state director comes together and the state parks come together. I mean, there's a lot of resource there when you start getting everybody working together.
Yes.
So I think that's really the model, is trying to figure out how to partner with other organizations.
Yeah.
So Robin, so to make sure I understand, you're saying that we can contact the ACA and hopefully they would provide someone who could help us set up an event to have a safe boating course on the water.
I wouldn't say they would help
I know
you.
it should be on land first, so people get familiar with the parts of the boat and different things like that.
Right.
But then progress on to water training aspect of it.
Right. So I wouldn't say that they would help you set that up. That's not really the way the ACA is organized. You can think of the ACA as a licensing organization. We don't have instructors we can send out to people, but what they can do is help you connect with local instructors who may be willing to help, and they can help you connect with local paddling clubs who may be willing to help. And I think you might be surprised at how strong some of the local clubs have, how strong the instructional program offered by local clubs is.
Yeah, because something else too is, and I talked to people at the park, and they're more than willing to put something that we're going to do on their website and Facebook. So that will get the word out and hopefully bring more people in. And we have a local newspaper, put it in there too. So we could have like a big event and get hopefully people getting involved in that, and hopefully we could build on that and make it a big thing in this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there really is a model that's working. Andrea White's the Regional Activities Council Director. It's the whole idea is that the national organization can't provide all these resources, but that there are state directors and instructors that are willing to collaborate if we can figure out how to get them organized.
Well, if we can get people in touch with each other, and North Carolina is an example. I think there were 100 or 150 instructors contacted, and 11 were willing to participate. So a 10% positive response rate is probably very good. But if you don't make the initial contact, it's a 0% response rate.
And to me, one of the best things about this whole process, and we're still in the middle of it, that we're making those connections across the organizations. Right. It's not just that we're training 180 people, but we're getting to know the state director, we're getting to know the park rangers. There's some real great relationships that are forming as a result.
Yeah, and I suspect that what we're doing with the AUXPAD program and with various outreach models is going to see some exponential growth. We're going to start small, but a few years of significant practice, significant effort is going to see us just skyrocket.
Yep.
Hey, Robin, did you want to talk about the relationship between the various order issuing authorities and AUXPAD 2, how we go about entering or requesting for orders once we are qualified, and the importance of the order issuing authorities to partner with us auxiliarists in that aspect?
We're going to have another session that will address that specifically, but the short answer is yes, it's critical to partner with your OIA. And if your OIA doesn't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, you're not going to get orders.
And I think the sort of the flip side of that is it's critical for us to understand what we're doing, in terms of requesting orders and getting our facilities approved. And, it really helps to have people that have been involved as boat crew and coxswains and operations people so that we're following the rules and we don't look like we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
If I might add, Glenn Bird and Warren Darrell's in our flotilla as well. We sat down with our station chief, our OIA, and explained the AUXPAD program to him because he wasn't at all familiar with it.
Right.
He came from the Michigan area recently and reinstalled at Riceville Beach, and so that went a long ways. And we then got a pretty smooth path to get requests for orders and support. So that worked well for us.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Roland mentioned the importance of working with various agencies, the idea of just building those relationships. And the relationship might not grow real quickly at first, but as you talk to people and explain what we're doing and show the value of what we're doing, I have trouble believing that we can't get great support from the Coast Guard.
Yeah. The other thing I've done a couple of times, I've had my operations training officer come down for a day and get out on the water. The last time we had our local operations officer from the station come out too. And, just doing some rescues and just showing them what we're all about. I think they come away with a very different understanding,
Right.
from what they had before. They really had very little knowledge. And here we had a guy who's really very fit and, is very capable in Coast Guard operations. He was not able to get back into his kayak with a lot of instruction, So I think that's, if you can get them out on the water, I think that's a great thing to do.
We've done that up here in New England. We've brought several of the Gold Side people, the training officer for the Coast Guard for New England came out with us, and he had a fantastic day on the water and saw that we're running it very professionally. And this summer he wants to have his boss, the Gold Side director of the auxiliary, is going to come out on the water with us. So if you can get that buy-in from the people at that level, that's just really going to boost the program in your area.
I agree.
Robin, are we going to have a Google Drive or something similar to that where all of these videos are going to be accessible?
Yes. So I'm actually working on a website that's going to have all this stuff, and it's not ready for prime time. We need to show it around and make sure everybody's happy with it. But our intention is to have everything easily accessible. And also going to hoping to have a calendar that people can just go to the calendar and see what's coming up, see who's presenting, everything in one place. One of the challenges is communicating across the country. We got a lot of people that are potentially interested, but we don't want to be just sending email to everybody, So if you have people that want to be notified about AUXPAD, make sure I know about it and we'll get their name on the list. But I'm trying to be sure that we're not spamming people with too much information too. So I have a couple of chat comments here. How many folks on this call have additional qualifications outside of AUX? Things like state agency boating paddlecraft instructors to do on the water training. So I don't know how many people can do on the water training here. I think of that primarily as ACA, but
Every qualifier can do on water instruction by definition. So,
and I think that's really the key to our growth, is getting people qualified as instructors. Once you have an instructor, you have no problem meeting the tandem requirement. You can take another member from your flotilla out as a trainee. So it's really, really important to get lots of instructors.
Can I teach my folks if I'm not an AQ?
no.
I don't think you're going to have trouble becoming an AQ, but if you want to do it under orders, it's going to be as an AQ.
But I mean, if I'm not an AQ, can I, I've got folks in my division that are interested in taking level 1 and level 2. Can I teach them without being an AQ?
So you can, as an ACA instructor, you can sign off on all the skills that are ACA skills. And then the other skills, things like navigation, the things that are specifically pointing towards boat crew type qualifications, those would have to be signed off within the auxiliary. So the ACA instructor can sign off on the ACA skills, and the other skills have to be signed off by an auxiliarist. And then the whole thing is signed off by an AQ. So the AQ would take the ACA instructor's write-up and check it off that that's been received.
So I could, as a TCO and boat crew, I could also sign off my folks on radio and boat crew type things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roland, I have two questions for Robin, but it looks like Kelly Rudolph has a hand up first.
Is,
Kelly, did you have a question?
yeah. Yeah, what, did you have a question, Kelly? Why don't you go ahead, Scott?
Sure. My first question is a basic question on how the program works. Can one become an AUXPAD operator or an AUXPAD qualifier just through the auxiliary, or does there have to be ACA involvement?
Now, yes, it can be done just through the auxiliary. A qualifier can check off on everything without someone going through the ACA. To be a qualifier, though, you have to be a level 2 instructor.
So
Okay, so the operator doesn't necessarily need to have contact
Right.
in the ACA, but
That's
the
correct.
qualifier has to be the instructor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and Robin, my second question was at the office of BSX, who are the champions of the program?
I don't know that we have significant champions up until recently. Right now, Master Chief Park has been a tremendous asset. And then, you know, not on the auxiliary side, but I've done a lot of work with Jeff Decker and Vern Gifford, and they're very strong supporters.
Okay,
And all three of them are great people overall.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and Scott, Paul Bernard's not on this call, but you know, Paul is the boating
Yes.
safety specialist for
D8.
Central, yeah,
Yep.
D8, and he's been a very strong supporter as well.
Yes. Thank you.
I want to recognize all the work that Scott is doing and is promising to do. Also, Scott has previously been an instructor trainer, and basically, you know, has a very high level of paddling skill, and is working with us down in District 7 to really get greater acceptance of the program with the gold side, and just really try to get things kind of moving down there. So I think that's very helpful. And Scott's planning to teach communications for us and navigation with Joey.
Great. Yeah, I was very excited, Scott, that you took that position.
The my chain of command said that in no small part my paddle sports background contributed to me being the successful candidate. So
Great.
Yeah. So other questions, comments?
Commodore Murphy, did we answer your question adequately?
I believe so.
Okay.
And I understand, I think fairly well about the AUXPAD program. And we've been working very hard within the state of Pennsylvania to have a wonderfully cooperative and burgeoning relationship with the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, so our local agency here.
Mhm.
I've known the director for that agency for 25 years, and she is a strong supporter of ours, and has been very thankful that a number of our people have been coming over to help them in their paddlecraft program. So
Okay.
they do have an on-water program,
Mhm.
and we literally changed the color of our shirts. So we're wearing green shirts and different ball caps from
Mhm.
there's Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. But it's a good working relationship.
Great.
I didn't know how many people were going out doing that. So I also teach as an American Sailing Association and
Mhm.
US Sailing instructor.
Okay.
And so for us to do this sort of parallels what happens with sailing. We
Mhm.
can't take the public and put them out on the water. We can take members out and teach
Mhm.
them. And so I can get qualifications for people in ASA and US
Yeah.
sailing going from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Robin, would it be possible for you to put the website for sun exposures up there. Again, I got most of the information, but not all of it.
We'll email that to Ron. Do you have email from everybody that's on here?
If I don't have your email, please send it to me. I suspect I have pretty much everybody here, but I might be missing somebody.
But I'll put it in the chat.
And my hope is to have that posted on a site where you can get to it.
Well, I'll put it in the chat. That'll be the easiest way to get it.
Okay. Yeah. So one other, I think I may have said this earlier, but I think one thing that's really important to remember is that a lot of our contact with the public is going to be on shore. And a lot of auxiliarists are not paddlers. So we have a tremendous potential here to get vessel examiners and educators and public affairs people, and program visitors smart about paddlecraft. And we're putting a lot of work into that. We have this presentation coming up on the 5th of April for vessel exams that I think is really, really powerful. I think most people, even paddlers, are going to learn some things in that presentation. So I think really for the first time, I think we're really starting to focus on paddlecraft on shore.
Yeah.
And there's a really tremendous potential there.
Yeah. And I don't know how many auxiliarists are going to be comfortable getting in the water in a 22-inch beam sea kayak or hopping on whitewater, but all of us can get up in front of a class and present some information that's going to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I'd like to emphasize is if you or somebody you know is interested in learning more, they can get on the water without becoming an AUXPAD operator.
Yeah.
You know, we can get out and do a day of paddling or rescues and experience what it's like to try to de-water a recreational kayak. I mean, so there's, you don't have to go in all the way to have some of that experience.
Yeah.
Robin and Roland, just to let you know, we will get that flyer up on the webpage.
Great, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
And Anthony, that flyer looks really outstanding. Thank you for pulling that together.
Of course, I got a few more changes to it, but as soon as it's up and running, we'll get it out there and send it to everyone.
Great, thank you.
Well, are there other comments or questions?
I think the work done to prepare the handbook has been excellent, and I think the changes that have been made are really very good. So I think we're going in a great direction, and I appreciate the work that's been done.
Thank you.
Roland, so Guy Campbell.
Hi, Guy.
I had a question regarding, our issuing of orders for AUXPAD missions.
Yeah.
The issuing authority, usually at the, station level, for local orders, they only follow what orders are above them from the sector. And I was wondering how we get the handbook into the sector SOPs, because despite what the handbook says, order issuing authorities are going to do anything contrary to what sector says.
I had an email from my local operations guy that said, did you know there's a new AUXPAD handbook?
Yeah.
So I think they're aware of it.
Okay.
I mean,
they got to change the SOP because.
And if they're not aware of it, I think you can inform them that this replaces the old commandant's instruction.
But does the handbook supersede the sector SOP? I don't think it would. If the sector SOP says there will be no orders issued for PWC or paddlecraft below 60 degrees, even though you may, that's a standing I think that's a standing instruction from sector.
Yeah, and sector command can do what they want. So
But
that's,
I don't know sure how people who write it as sector are aware of all the work's gone into the handbook. You know, because the only mention of paddlecrafts is in that one sentence, like in our sector. It is combined with personal watercraft. So, you know, I think it's a new handbook. Maybe not everybody's aware of it, especially people who are writing the general policy letters, which, you know, generally tend to get just change the date.
yeah.
No, yeah, it's just something maybe I know we can push up through our leadership up to, you know, here's a new handbook, maybe incorporate it, you know.
Right. So I think the better way to do that is work through your auxiliary sector coordinator and make sure that they are aware of the new handbook and ask them to present that to the sector and have the sector review their SOP and make any changes that they would like in accordance with the handbook. Again, sector can do what they would like, and that's any sector. They can do what they like.
Yeah.
They can add to the restrictions. They just can't take away from the restrictions.
Yeah. It's just an education process.
Absolutely.
Michelle Thornton has asked us for feedback regarding the SOP for our sector. So some of that feedback will be presented to her regarding some of the things that are happening with the AUXPAD Handbook, and we'll make notification to Commodore Thornton and make her aware of what we're doing and what we're proposing. So that will definitely be noted.
Yeah. Remember, you're working with the government. Wheels of government turn slowly.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay. Robin, I think this has been a great discussion, a great way to kick off our seminar series. Thank you for all the work you did in getting the handbook written and refined and approved. I think it's really a huge step forward. And, you know, I think it's coming together with some other things, I think, that are very positive at the same time. So I think we're gonna have some good couple of years in front of us here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.